what often happens is that a lot of these folks, they're very successful in their lives outside of trading. They run successful businesses, they're athletes, they go to the gym consistently, they meditate, they do all these things that suggest that they're disciplined people overall. But then when they come into the market, they still struggle.
So, herzlich willkommen hier bei Easy. Wir haben heute einen extra Gast und zwar hier live aus Kanada für uns zugeschaltet ist Yvan Byeajee hier mit seinem neuen Buch. Ich bin großer Fan, ich bin auf ihn gestoßen, spätestens hier mit diesem Buch, das ich auch jedem empfehle. Das werden wir auch schön in den Shownotes auf jeden Fall nochmal verlinken. Wir werden das Ganze auf Englisch führen, von daher würde ich sagen, verlieren wir keine Zeit und wir legen gleich los. Hi Yvan, how are you?
Hi David. I'm doing good. How about you? Thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it.
It's really a pleasure for us having you on our channel since we are a very small channel. We have big plans, but it's just the beginning. It's our first year. So it's really a pleasure. Where are you located right now? In Canada, I think, right?
I'm based in Canada. I'm based in Montreal, in the beautiful province of Quebec. And yeah, we're slowly inching into winter here. So the weather is starting to change, but you know, it's all good.
Okay.
It's part of life, right?
Great. I would like to start to those people that maybe don't know you yet or didn't read Zero to Hero. In your book, you described, your how you started, how you came to trading, then, your first years full of drawdowns, a really hard struggle and everything. Could you summarize for those people who just want to have a small, bio or your background story?
Mm-hmm. So first of all, I discovered trading when I was still a teenager. I was 17, maybe 18 years old. I don't come from money to begin with. Very humble background, very humble beginnings. And right from the get-go, from an early age like that, I was so fascinated by the market and just the opportunities there. This idea of being able to take calculated risks in order to earn a decent income, a decent reward. I always found this fascinating. And so lo and behold, I was completely I knew right from the get-go that this is what I wanted to do out of my life, right? And so eventually I dropped out of high school because school just wasn't for me. It's not that I'm dumb or anything like that. It's just that I have a particular way of processing information, and just the school system wasn't fit for my specific needs. And so, of course, I didn't have enough money for a decent trading account, right? So I had to take odd jobs here and there in order to save enough money for a decent trading account. And eventually, in 2006 or so, I plunged full-time into trading with about $100,000. And so this is how I got started. I plunged into trading full-time right away, thinking that I would be able to earn a living right from the get-go out of it. But as the story unfolded, it wasn't like that at all, right? I went through lots of ups and downs. I made a lot of money. I lost a lot of money. But overall, I learned a lot along this journey. And today I am where I am in life because of those different experiences. So no regrets whatsoever. It's all part of this life, right? You learn, you grow, you evolve. So that's a little bit about me, David. Where I was and where I am now. I currently manage a fund for myself and a small group of investors. I co-manage it. It's going pretty well. We're very, very consistent in our trading operations. And in the kind of results that we're getting as well. And our investors are very happy overall. And that aside, I run and manage Trading Composure, an online trading psychology sort of blog or website, however you want to call this, where I share my hard-earned lessons about trading, mainly from a psychological lens, because at the end of the day, this is what it's about, After you figured out a viable trading strategy or system, however you want to call this, but that should go without saying, right? Then the bulk of the work that you have to do, it's a matter of mindset. It's about aligning your mind with the realities of the market. And so, this is what I focus on.
The perfect topic, because this is we want to focus on. And I came across your blog many years ago. I don't know how I found it, or maybe one of my friends showed it to me. I don't know. And I loved it from the beginning because it wasn't the typical, hey, here's the setup A, here's setup B, do this and do that. But as you said, focusing on the hard part, this is that nobody tells you in the beginning. And yeah, I wouldn't know that, 5, 6 or 10 years later, we would do an interview. So this is, life happens. I really love it. Everything is like a piece of the puzzle. And I think in Zero to Hero, you say, I just quote from the book, you have the power to change your trading results if you are willing to erase whatever conflicting beliefs you hold that would prevent you from consistently doing that task. So are you really convinced that anyone can become a profitable trader? Because many times we just hear, 95% lose money. It's so hard. We know it is hard, but does really anybody have the possibility to become a profitable trader? What do you think?
Absolutely. Look, the game isn't complicated per se, right? It's simple. I'm not saying easy. It's simple, right? An analogy that I like to use is this. Let's say we play a little game, you and I. We take a fair coin, all right? Heads you win $3, tails you lose $1. Look, you don't need to be a genius to figure out what will happen in the long run. Should we keep flipping that coin, right? Should we flip it 20 times, 50 times, 100 times, 1,000 times, 2,000 times? You will make more money than you lose. Now, of course, in the short term, a lot of random noise there, right? Heads, heads, tails, tails, heads, tails, heads, tails, tails, tails. You can get clusters of tails, right? Meaning clusters of losses. But keep flipping the coin and you're virtually guaranteed to make more money than you lose overall. So it's a statistical probability game, right? But and if you think about it, trading is very similar. Of course, trading is a little bit more multi-dimensional than this simple coin flipping game. But the core of it, I mean, once again, David, it's just a statistical probability game, pure and simple. And if you can take your emotions out of it and really focus on the process, adopt that kind of behavioral consistency, have hard rules in place to protect you from yourself, I mean, you will allow the numbers to work themselves out and you'll be very happy by the end of it in terms of the aggregate results. But the problem is that most traders can't do this, right? They get so emotionally attached, so emotionally entangled in the short-term ups and downs of things. And because they're expecting results now on this next trade. But it doesn't work like that. There's an element of uncertainty baked into market prices that no amount of analysis can fully dispel. And if you don't accept that uncertainty, if you don't embrace it, trading is it's always going to remain a struggle, right? So that is where the bulk of the work needs to be put in terms of your mindset, in terms of harmonizing once again your mindset with the realities of the market. And a lot of people, unfortunately, they don't realize this fast enough, right? They realize this after, a lot of money lost, after years of struggling. And but yes, to come back to your question, anybody can do this, absolutely, provided that they have that realization that, okay, I need to work on myself now. I have the strategy locked in. Now the work that I need to put in, it's all about me. It's all about harmonizing my mind with the realities of the market.
It's the positive message, and that's the message we want to spread. And that's why I think it's so good to have you here in the discussion, because you came through the struggle, the ups and downs, you speak out of experience, and we will come later to other topics, how you came to, realizing this, and what kind of tools you use. And in your book, the topic of uncertainty is one of the focus areas, right? Because we typically, as humans, we don't want uncertainty. Our brain wants harmony and certainty, and we hate uncertainty, but that's how the markets are. So one quote I like from one of your book is, you say, trading is a game one plays against oneself. And here it becomes clear that it's not the S&P we are fighting, or the other market participants, or the broker, or the strategy, the algo. It's me. So I am my biggest enemy, maybe, but also the solution. Why do you think the industry doesn't, if let's say the industry, the brokers, everything would be focusing more on the psychological area instead of selling the best indicator, the best strategy? Is it because it's much more difficult than telling people, look, here's a strategy, you get rich now? It's much more effort involved, or why? I always have the feeling, if you go to a bookstore, you see 500 books with indicators, with charts, with everything, maybe 2 or 5 books like your ones that is about trading psychology. Why is that? I mean, everybody wants to get successful, and how come? I don't understand it.
Mm-hmm. At the core, this is a philosophical question, right? There's something about the human spirit that craves certainty. And I don't know what it is exactly, precisely. Maybe it's a survival mechanism. Maybe it's an inherent fear of the unknown, of death, right? Because that's what it all boils down to at the end of the day, right? It reminds us of our imminent death at some point, the cessation of our lives. I don't know what it is precisely. I'm just speculating here, but
Okay.
there's this intense craving of uncertainty that we all have as a species, and this directly translates into those various indicators and just us drawing little lines on charts to try to figure out whether this is a valid pattern or not. And I'm not saying this is useless. This is absolutely helpful, but very often what happens is that we end up seeing patterns that are just not there. And it's important to understand that patterns are features of chaotic systems like the market, right? They're not bugs, they're not aberrations, they're really features. When you flip a random coin, you're bound to get patterns, streaks, streaks of heads, streaks of tails. So patterns are features of chaotic systems. That doesn't mean that they mean anything specific, right? It just so I'm not saying that patterns in the market aren't helpful, but it's important to balance our analysis of the market with a thorough understanding and appreciation and embrace and, quite frankly, love of uncertainty, because uncertainty is what creates opportunities in the market, right? Just opportunity and risk are just two sides of the same coin,
Yeah.
right? And I know this is easier said than done. It's difficult to embrace the uncertainty. It takes time. It takes effort. It takes intentional effort, right? But if you're just going through the motions and thinking, reading Mark Douglas and reading his tenets, right? There's a random distribution between wins and losses. Da 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 da. It's like, sure, it's helpful, but you're not gonna create really that transformational, that paradigm shifting moment where you're actually seeing the market differently, because memorizing isn't enough. You need to do, once again, the intentional effort, put in the intentional effort to actually get to a point where experientially, not just conceptually, experientially, you're embracing the uncertainty. And once again, this takes time, David.
That is hard to sell. If you tell people it takes time to run the marathon, it's not a sprint, right? And working on yourself, it's hard work. Yeah, that's true. You also talk a lot of, about the human mind and how our brain works. That of course our brain is a pleasure-seeking machine, and that we want to avoid things that we see as negative. That we want to enjoy everything. That would be a very boring life, but this is how it works basically. And this leads to things that we should, and this is hard, but we should embrace short-term pain and seek long-term emotional gratification. But people maybe read this and say, yeah, that's true. I know it. Normally that's with other stuff too. If you have short-term pain and you do sports, or, you have better food, then you gain long-term gratification. But how can we transform this into trading? What does this mean to a trader to, embrace the short-term pain in order to get to the success point somewhere?
A lot of traders in my coaching practice, and what often happens is that a lot of these folks, they're very successful in their lives outside of trading. They run successful businesses, they're athletes, they go to the gym consistently, they meditate, they do all these things that suggest that they're disciplined people overall. But then when they come into the market, they still struggle, and they struggle a lot. And it's because the market, once again, it all boils down to this topic of uncertainty again, right? It requires a mindset that is more attuned to the realities of uncertainty, right? And the level of uncertainty in the market compared to other aspects of life, even business, it's different. In the market, that uncertainty is it's much more it's much more glaring, I would say. You see it more readily, right? The market is constantly giving you that ongoing feedback, right? Win, loss. And if your mindset isn't aligned with this, it's just difficult, right? Because you're always going to be taking the wins personally, the losses personally. Wins will get to your head,
Yeah,
losses will
yeah.
go to your heart, and it's just unproductive overall. I'm not saying you have to be some kind of saint or monk to be a trader. That's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is that a little bit more stability in your mind as you go through the ups and downs of the process is very, very important. And once again, this takes time to develop. The problem with trading is that very often, and Mark Douglas talked about this. You don't need any particular skills to come into trading and put a trade on and find yourself in a massively profitable trade, right? You don't need any skill whatsoever. You could just place a trade and that's it. The market could reward you right there. And this leads people into thinking that, oh, okay, if it's easy, if it's that easy for me to make money in the market, it must be equally easy to be consistently profitable in the market. And once again, it's those they're two different things. Making money on a trade or two based on random chance and making consistent money in the market, very different things. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, and so it's a misconception, right? Very often people come into trading, they think that it's all about strategy and all of that. And yes, fundamentally yes. But if you can, you know, align your mindset with the realities of trading to begin with the realities of the market to begin with, if you have the right psychology for it, then yes, it's just a matter of strategy. But for
Yeah.
most people, it's not. It's a mental game. So I don't know if this answers your question, David, but I would say that's one of the main reason why the success rate is so low in amongst traders. It's not because the market is rigged against us. Very often, it's our psychology that's working against us. That's the central issue here.
One of the central things here is, our thoughts, right? So if somebody, has read or is, focusing on the Buddhist teachings, he knows that, thoughts are really, really important, because in the end, what I think will dominate my actions, my behavior. So it all starts with thinking. What I have realized in trading in many years, that it's our thinking and especially our ego that creates a lot of trouble. If a trader wants to be right and so on. And what if you think back now, maybe 20 years later since you began trading, what do you think about thoughts, especially related to trading? What have you learned about, how you, I wouldn't say control your thoughts, or maybe observe or whatever. What is the most important thing that you learned about your thoughts in the last 20 years of trading?
During my time as a trader, and I've been doing this for a very long time now, David, for well over 20 years at this point. What I've realized is that trading and mindfulness, they're really a match made in heaven, right? And mindfulness is Well, it's often portrayed as staying in the present moment. That's how it's described. That's how it's often defined. But mindfulness has to mean something more. It's not just being in the present moment. Mindfulness is a strategy of attention where you're just observing. Um, you're observing phenomena, whether internal
Mm,
or external, right? And you're adopting that kind of non-judgmental attitude or sort of stance
mm,
towards whatever it is that you're simply observing, right? And so whether it's thoughts or emotions or whether it's sounds, sights,
mm,
sensations, whatever it is, you're just adopting that kind of more neutral stance with it. You're just observing it. That's it. Observing, and you're not being engulfed by by those things, by those different things.
mm,
And if you think about the process of trading, it really requires you to maintain a certain level of stability in your mind like that as you go through the process, because you can't be taking each wins personally and each losses
mm,
personally. It's completely, utterly counterproductive to do this. Because once
mm,
again, it's a statistical probability game. So in the short term, anything can happen. You can't be taking those clusters of losses personally, or even those few wins here and there. You have to learn to assess your results over the long term, right? We're talking about aggregate results here, um, and
mm,
and so uh, as much as possible, if you can sort of adopt this perspective of just okay, it's normal to get attached to short-term outcomes, to wins and losses. It's completely normal to feel ecstatic when you win or to feel depressed when you lose. But mindfulness allows you to sort of experience yourself, experience your emotions, experience what it
mm,
feels like to be you, um, amidst the short-term chaos without getting bogged down too much on
mm.
on specific emotions, right? So,
Okay.
let's say you're sensing frustration arising in the moment because you've had three losses in a row, which is a very normal occurrence, by the way. Three
Yeah.
losses in a row, very, very common. So when you notice that you're getting, bogged down by this, you're getting frustrated or you're feeling miserable, there's a way to experience those emotions and those feelings, those thoughts from a place of freedom where you're allowing yourself to experience those, but you're not getting attached to them, right?
Mm,
So this requires practice. It requires uh, a certain way of dealing with your emotions, and mindfulness allows you to do this. This is why
mm,
I'm such a big proponent of the practice, and I'm not talking about the religious dimension of it, because there
mm,
certainly is a religious dimension to it. What I'm talking about is really the bare naked practice of mindfulness, of just sitting with yourself and observing your thoughts and emotions and feelings. That's just brain exercise. That's all it is
mm.
at the end of the day. And so this is this has been super impactful in my own personal life, because I don't know if you can tell, but I'm a very emotional person overall. That's just who I am as a person.
Mm,
I'm a very sensitive guy, always have, and certainly always will be.
mm,
But mindfulness has allowed me to just develop that wisdom in terms of how I deal with myself and my different states of mind. So much so that now I'm much more, I'm not a perfect human being, of course, right? I still go through difficult periods, right?
yeah.
Because I'm just a normal human being once again.
Yeah.
But I'm much more skillful in terms of how I deal with my emotions now, and it's made a
Mm.
huge difference in my own personal life and in my trading as well.
Need to break to bring down the emotional volatility. Yeah, the emotional
Mhm.
fix should be a little bit lower, right? For most traders, it's like this. It looks like the fix, you know.
This actually reminds me of something, and I often share this. I was walking down the street a, a few months ago now, and I saw this case of road rage. Just two guys getting out of their cars and just insulting each other's and punching each other's. And I remember thinking to myself, "Oh wow, what an unproductive way of being in the world." There's no separation between what's happening and your reaction to what's happening. And I remember thinking, oh wow, these folks, they would make lousy traders. They would lose their money in the market, because in the market you
Yeah.
can't be emotionally reactive like that, right? There needs to be a little bit more wisdom in your mind, little bit more, um, I mean, a little bit more objectivity in how you're dealing with this, a little bit more, once again, wisdom in how you're responding to things. You can't be straight into your emotions like that. It doesn't work. So, yeah. It's important to develop that capacity to deal with your difficult emotions, right? And you typically do this. You do this in the heat of the moment, right? You don't do it after the fact, because look, it's easy to be calm and equanimous and composed when life is flowing like a calm river, right? But where's the merit in that? You have to practice that resilience, developing that stability in your mind when things are going wrong, as you're going through clusters of losses, for instance. And this is when this becomes powerful, because the more you practice this, the more this becomes the pattern and inclinations of your life, pure and simple. It's the whole idea of neuroplasticity, right? You are what you repeatedly do.
Yeah.
Practice makes you, if you want to become a better person overall, practice being a better person overall. That's it at the end of the day.
Sometimes I think that, or I just personally, have been thinking about this. Why am I attracted, or for such a long time, to trading and all the financial world? It's not just the money, because there are so many jobs where you can even take an easier path to get a lot of money. You can plan to become a lawyer. You can really, in such and such years, you will become a lawyer. You will earn that and that much. So from my standpoint, it's easier and more plannable to become a lawyer or a doctor than becoming a consistent trader. And still people try to do this, and myself included. So I was thinking, or if my friends ask me why, and it's so difficult and so much effort involved, and then I really found out that it's the journey, it's the self-mastery that you start with this. But in the beginning, I didn't know that. It was just the markets and so on, all of the excitement, and then after many years, you realize I'm not training on the chart or the next setup. I'm trying to improve myself. And I saw this with many traders. If I talk to them, what kind of books they read, that they are interested in meditation, other things. Some people wouldn't think about this. They still have the image of, the financial world. These are the guys with the nice suits and, just money, 24/7. And it's many times it's exactly the opposite. They are not really attached to money. And I really found out that these guys are very often the best traders I have seen. Regular guys, not, 5 Lambos in their garage or something. It's really down to earth and really focused on, becoming a better version of themselves. So this is, I think, the main thing that you can gain from trading, but people don't realize this. Self-analysis is a big part of this, but now this is a word people will listen to and say, yeah, okay, yeah, I believe this too. But how can I practice this? So how can I start? Let's say there is somebody listening to this discussion, struggling with trading, and now says, yeah, I need to change something, but I want to realize myself. Maybe there are some hidden beliefs or things that are completely against my trading success. But how would you start? What kind of recommendation would you give to somebody that is in your course, or as a coach, a mentor? How would you start, or what kind of recommendation can you give to them?
First of all, I want to comment a little bit on what you said earlier in terms of how trading really requires you to really let go of the immediate outcome and just focus on the process. And that's really what's paradoxical about this whole game, right? Because we come into it to make money, to make a lot of money, but then we discover down the line that it's like we have to focus on the process. We have to focus on the process, and focusing on the process then eventually gets us as close as possible to our end goals. And if you're consistent and process driven and confident in the market, there's no cap on the amount of money that you can make in the market, David. I've worked with a lot of traders who are consistently banking money in the market, pulling, extracting consistent money week after week after week after week, right? From the market, predictably like that. So it's entirely possible. Um, if you're confident and consistent, the world is your oyster. Like really, there's no cap on your earning potential. I'm not saying there won't be losses. There will be losses. Losses are part and parcel of this game. You got to get to a point in your mind where you've normalized this idea of having to take losses on your way to consistent profitability. There's just no way around this. But once you're able to do this, once again, there's no limit on your earning potential, and that's what's beautiful about this. And it's so paradoxical as well, right? Because it's about money, but you have to come to a point where you're not making it about money, and that's a shift that's very hard for people to make. But yeah, you were asking how to make that shift. Well, it's look it. Once again, it's an answer that a lot of people don't necessarily like, is that it takes time, you know. So the an analogy that I like to use is this: if you want to get better um, at swimming, you got to swim more, man. You can't just pick up a bunch of books on swimming, watch a bunch of YouTube videos on swimming, and then call it a day, right? Those are helpful, absolutely. But at the end of the day, practice is king. You got to put yourself out there. You got to jump into the ocean and then try again, and then try some more. At the end of the day, that's what it all boils down to. You need to practice. You need to expose yourself to hurt, right? To the uncertainty, right? Because if you don't know how to swim, of course you're going to be fearful of the ocean. But what you do is that you start small. You start with shallow waters, right? And when you get better at when you develop the right movements and all of that, and when you develop that confidence, then you go into deeper waters. That's how you do it. It's one step at a time. The problem is that most traders, and it's normal, right? It's this easy money gets dangled to us like that by the market on a continual basis, and it's very easy to sort of think that okay, let's just bet the farm here, right? But no, you got to take it slowly and work on building your mastery, your self mastery, and you typically do this with small position sizes, and so you. Another analogy that I like to use is this: if you never set foot in the gym before, you don't start bench pressing 4 45-pound plates on each side of the bar. Right? If you do this, you will hurt yourself. You will hurt yourself badly. No, what you do is instead is that you take it slowly, one step at a time. You start with light weights, and then slowly over time, as your form gets better, as your confidence increases, as your muscles grow bigger as well, you increase the weight. Slowly but surely. It's a methodical process like that. And it's the exact same thing here, right? You start small with small position sizes, and you work on developing your consistency there. You build that solid foundation, right? And then over time, as you get better, you increase your position size. It's always a good idea to work in sample sizes, right? Let's say over a sample of 20 to 50 trades, you see that you're being consistent and you're getting positive results. Then you increase your size a little bit more over a sample of 20 to 50 trades, once again, and then you start again. And if at any point down the line you see that you're losing your stability of mind, you're losing that composure, that consistency, then you go back, right? You reduce your position size again. This is how you do it. Mastery is a process. It's not an overnight thing. It's really a process, and it takes time. But once again, it's not an answer that people like to hear, because trading sounds so easy on paper, theoretically, right? You just need a strategy, and that's it. And that strategy, you can learn it, in a weekend seminar or whatever by watching YouTube videos. And people erroneously think that, okay, it's easy, but it's not easy. It's very difficult. It's one of the hardest things out there, because it forces you to confront uncertainty. And people, once again, they don't like uncertainty.
Tell people who ask me, I tell them, look, even for a simple job here in Germany, for example, you need to take 3 years of training, right? If you want to become a lawyer, doctor, you need 6 or 7 years, and you want to become a trader and trade against the pros within a few weeks or after a webinar, or that won't work. So it's maybe our generation is especially very impatient, or as impatient as ever. So that's the main thing. We want to have everything here and now. So I would like to read something from Zero to Hero, because that's the next question. I love this. I will copy this and send this to my friend. Okay, so I'm just reading from the book. Suppose I tell you about a magic pill that you could take daily. The magic pill could drastically increase your ability to take rational decisions in the markets. It could reduce your anxiety when you trade, decrease impulsivity, and increase your overall capacity to act in your best interest in the markets. And the side effects are, increased self-esteem, acceptance of the past, of the unknown, self-trust, improved memory, and so on. Would you take that pill? I think everybody would say, yes, give me the pill. What is the pill? Tell us about this. So important and so powerful.
It's introspection in general. I wouldn't contain it to just mindfulness meditation. It's just thinking, right? Being with yourself, giving you that time to just think and to just reflect, right? And a lot of people, they live their lives externally, David. They just live, externally. They're merely existing, and existing in the market. Sure, in life you can get by just merely existing, right? But in the market, you need to become a thinker. You need to think. You need to develop the habit of reflection, and observation as well, right? Observing and thinking. This is crucial, and the problem is that most people, they don't do that. They're not willing to take that pill, because not everything within us is beautiful, is polished, shiny, right? So it's difficult to look at, we have good seeds, we have bad seeds, we have good qualities, bad qualities, and it's difficult to be honest with ourselves like that, and to take stock of what's within us, and to really observe this, like see what's good about us, what's bad about us, and take actions to actually change what's not so good. It's very difficult. And so once again, this is why most people, they live externally, alone. They're just reacting to what's happening. They're just passively living lives, and they're not actively living life. And that doesn't work in the market. It simply doesn't work. So the way you could start this is that you could just take, maybe 5 minutes per day to just sit in meditation, just to be with yourself, to really observe what it feels like to be David or to be Yvan, right? And you just stay with yourself, observe your breath, observe your thoughts and your feelings, and try to see what those are. What is David to begin with? What is this thing called David? Is there even a David to begin with there? Like, those are important questions that the typical person doesn't ask himself or herself, right? And it's very important to ask yourself questions like that. Become introspective, become curious about yourself, become curious about the market, because curious about this mystery called life, right? And don't settle for cheap and easy answers, right? Because cheap and easy answers won't get you to your end goals, right? You need to become more reflective once again, and be willing to look at what's difficult, what's hard, what's challenging within yourself, and confront those. And once you're able to lean into what's uncomfortable, and what's not necessarily easy to look at and polished, and all of that, you're going to be much further in terms of your journey to success in trading, but more broadly to happiness as a human being, right? It's really being willing to face, and I talk about that in the new book, Trading Composure. That ability to face what's uncomfortable, what's not easy, what's challenging, is really an essential ability to have, especially as a trader.
Yeah, I think it's a very important thing or important lesson general in general life. Also, the things that you talk about in the book, I think it's not only for traders. I would say the book is for everybody, because I think everybody struggles with the same things, especially nowadays, where you have so many distractions, so much noise out there, it's really hard to keep the focus and concentrate. Okay, who am I? What do I want? What do I want out of life? All of these things. People, I think they really forget about themselves. They really, it's hard to see, but I think, especially for the younger generation, it will become even more important because there are so many distractions. So. I think, or you also said this in the book, or you discussed this, I think that journaling is also a big part of the self-analysis process and so on. Are you still doing it? Do you have a trading journal or a personal journal, or do you mix it, or do you still write it every day or maybe once a while? Or tell us about your journaling practice.
Journal a lot when I started trading, and it was definitely an important part of my overall process, because once again, it forces you to think, it forces you to connect the dots, and to see patterns of successes and patterns of failures, so that you can better the quality of your decisions overall. When you write those thoughts down, they're not hazy thoughts anymore. Now you've crystallized them on paper, and you can refer back to those thoughts and really see what works and what doesn't work, pure and simple. So it's an important part of the process. But personally, I'm at a point in my trading now where I don't do it anymore. Look, all of this is second nature at this point. I've been doing this for 20 plus years now. I don't even have to do this. I understand my strategy very well, right? And I understand what I'm looking for in the market. Yes, I'm emotional sometimes when I approach, when I go through clusters of losses, but it doesn't destabilize my mental game at all. I'm able to go through the process. I'm able to do what I need to do, right? Regardless of how I feel in the short term. And once again, this takes time. I'm not saying journaling isn't important. It's a very important part of the process. But when you're rather early in your trading journey, after that, all of this becomes second nature, and you don't even have to think about it anymore. That being said, I'm still accountable to my investors, for instance, right? I still have to respond to, and that's one of the big advantages that institutional traders have over the retail trader. They typically look, those institutional traders very often, they're kids right out of college, university, David. Oh, most of them, a lot of them, they don't have any kind of trading bones in their bodies. They don't have any kind of significant market experience. They're typically hired for their educational prowess, right? And yet they outperform retail traders like you and me on a consistent basis. And well, the first reason is that they have the weight of the bank, of the institutions behind them. It's much easier to correct mistakes when you have unlimited buying power, right? Risk becomes more linear overall. But the second reason is because of the support structure that they have. They have accountability managers, risk officers, however you want to call them, however you want to call this, behind their back, watching over their shoulders, making sure that they're sticking with their risk allotments, making sure that they're staying process driven and disciplined and all of that. But us retail traders, we don't have that luxury. Right from the get-go, we're our own boss.
Yep.
We work for ourselves, by ourselves, which is great. It's amazing. It's great in the long run when you're a fully proficient trader. In the short term, it's a massive disadvantage. It's a massive disadvantage not to have someone to whom you're accountable to. Because, David, look at how hard it is for people to stick to a diet or to meditate on a consistent basis. We were talking about this earlier. Or to hit the gym on a consistent basis. Simple things like that. Now you're asking them to be consistent in the market when money is on the line? No, it doesn't work like that. It's not as easy as it sounds. So, having a strong accountability system in place is really, really helpful at the end of the day. And I myself have this, and I've noticed that, and this is what we offer in our coaching program, by the way, that strong accountability, that institutional grade level of accountability. And we're with our traders every single day during the trading session, and we help them stay on that consistency bandwagon, trade after trade after trade. Sometimes we give them tough love, right? Because this is part of it. This is part of the process, because this is what institutional traders get as well. So whether they're getting that from you, David, whether they're getting that from me or any other, parties out there, accountability, external accountability is very, very important at the end of the day, because it helps you do what you know you're supposed to be doing. Not once, not twice, consistently, right? Because it's really that consistency that's important at the end of the day. Trading is really a game of consistency, right? Consistent input, consistent output. That's it. Period. End of story, right?
Yeah.
If you're behaviorally consistent, you'll be able to let the numbers work themselves out, and consistent results is what you will get. Now, of course, provided that your system has a positive expected value, statistically speaking, right? Because if it doesn't, negative results is what you will get at the end of the day, right? So you got to make sure that your system, it makes sense statistically speaking, and if you stay consistent with it, consistent results is what you will get, pure and simple.
What people in the beginning think of the markets, sometimes I have the feeling that people come to the markets because they find their 9-to-5 job a little bit boring. So they need a thrill or excitement. They think, today I can day trade, tomorrow I develop a new strategy, then I play with options, then this, then that. It will be, a nice roller coaster. It will be fun. And if you tell them no, it's like really, doing the same thing day by day and, managing your risk and so on. Oh, it really sounds boring. And if it's boring, I think you're on the right path. So that's a good thing. Now, digging a little bit deeper into the trading itself, I remember I think there was it an ebook? I read an ebook from you on a option strategy. I don't know. I don't remember the name, a few years ago. I wanted to ask you what kind of instruments you trade and maybe why you trade them, or what kind of trading style you focus on for your private trading or the fund, or I don't know how you separate this, whether you have different trading styles or what kind of trading styles you prefer.
I use 3 different strategies in the fund. I co-manage the fund, by the way. My associate, he's an options trader, so he takes care of that side of things. So personally, I use 3 different strategies. One based on the weekly time frame. This is my sort of bread and butter, strategy, and it's pretty long term, right? I would call it a swing trading strategy, because I can, stay in a position anywhere between a few days to a few weeks, and then I have a day trading strategy based on a 30-minute time frame. And this is more, it's faster and allows me to book those quicker gains. And then I have a third trading strategy, but it's not really a trading strategy. It's more of a buy and hold approach. I buy and hold stocks that have been unfairly beaten down for capricious reasons, right? And I hold them for the very long term. No stop loss, no profit target whatsoever.
Okay.
Just hold for
the
the very
Warren
long
Buffett
term.
strategy.
Yes, that's it. And
Okay.
and so those 3 different strategies, as you can imagine, they complement each other very, very nicely. When one strategy isn't doing well, the other one usually is. And what it does is that it helps smooth my overall sort of equity curve, right? So there's less volatility in there. It's more, it smooths it overall, because those strategies are designed in a way that they complement each other. When one isn't doing well, the other one usually is.
Concentrating on stocks and options here on our channel. I personally trade mainly stocks and options, sometimes futures for hedging. But do you think, I have the feeling that for somebody who's starts out with trading, that specific option strategies, selling options might be an easier entry into the game, because the probability is higher, so the mental side is easier to manage. If I think back when I started, I had a really bad start, if I now look back and see what you can do with options, I sometimes think it's a pity that so few retail investors really trade with options. Do you think the same, or what would you say would be a good asset class or strategy to start with?
Look, I've been burned by options in the past personally. So I'm not the options expert here. I would personally prefer stocks because of how flexible they are, and you don't have to deal with any, things like variables like time decay and all of that. So maybe if you're an option seller, this would definitely be easier.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
It's
Yeah,
more
selling options.
systematic, right? Higher probability of win and all of that.
Yeah.
If you can get good at devising those different option strategies, you can earn a very comfortable sort of income and build your confidence like that with a very high success rate, right? But very often what happens is that when people they start with options, they start by buying options,
Yeah.
and there's the time decay component that's working against you, not for you, and it can make it adds another element, another variable into the equation that's just and trading is already difficult as is, right? You have to manage yourself, you have to, and that's
Yeah.
of course there's certainly ways to buy options and to make it much more profitable, right? For instance, if you were to buy deep in the money options, but the reward isn't necessarily there, but then this push people to do things that are unproductive, like going in with bigger position sizes, expecting thousands of percent in terms of returns.
Yeah, yeah.
So holding on to the options for way longer than they should have. It's just unproductive things like that. So yeah, my opinion on this is very, I guess, hot and cold, right? Because I've been burnt with the options in the past myself.
Yeah.
And one of the strategies that I currently use, my day trading strategies, my trading strategy, it used to be an options strategy, but now I don't use it with options anymore. I use it straight with the underlying. My associate, he deals with options. He's the options guy, so I let him take care of that.
Okay.
But personally, I'm just trade stocks directly. And now we've added cryptocurrencies as well into the fund. That was in 2021. Personally, I was against that decision because back then I didn't understand cryptocurrencies at all, so I was quite skeptical about it. But then the investors in the fund really wanted us to include cryptocurrencies into the fund in the fund, and it all boiled down to a vote at the end of the day. So we ended up including those. We ended up buying a bunch of Bitcoin, Ethereum, and different other names. And in 2021, then the COVID meltdown happened, and we doubled down at the lows. And that year we were up by well over 4,000% in the fund, thanks to the addition of cryptocurrencies. So this is, I guess, this is to say that you have to keep an open mind and just embrace what this game is about, taking risks and embracing the uncertainty.
Yep.
And so yeah.
Opinion I have from cryptos, it's like, to me, it's just an asymmetric bet, It's like the upside is so much higher, We all know people can, or masses can really get mad, so we can see prices nobody can imagine, and the risk is defined. It's 100% if you don't have a stop loss. So it's, to me, it's fine. If you know your position size, it's a great tool. Now let's talk. I have one or two, three questions left about your book, Trading Composure. So once again, I can really recommend this to everybody. I'm not getting paid for this. I really, 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 really recommend this. It's beautifully written, first of all. So it really it makes fun to read this. It's not a book that you will read in an hour. I had to stop many times and think about it. I wrote down things. It's really something you have to think about. It's full of philosophy, the Eastern philosophy or Buddhist teachings. I really love that. I'm really attracted to this, so I especially enjoyed this, but I can highly recommend this. And part of the book is you talk a lot of about uncertainty and ways to mitigate the intolerance against uncertainty. We have him talking about this, but also risk management, because in the end this is the only thing we can control. Nobody knows where the market is headed, but we can control our risk. I like this. And you have a specific 3-pillar approach that you are describing. Would you just summarize what the 3-pillar approach is about, or just summarize the main, I would say, concept or strategy that is discussed in the book in detail, of course?
Basically, the bulk of trading psychology, if you think about it, it's to really it's about developing a way to interact with the market that is more conducive to success over the long run, right? You want to get to a point where you're not deriving excessive pleasure from winning, or excessive misery from losing. I'm not saying that you have to be some kind of robot or brain dead zombie to be a trader, but just a modicum of stability in your mind as you go through the process is important. And personally, through my work with traders for many years now, and through my own personal experiences as well, I've developed this 3-pillar approach that is highly impactful, that really helps traders develop that ongoing stability of mind as they go through the process of doing trading, right? And that pillar is very simple. First, they have to develop the embrace of uncertainty, right? The embrace of uncertainty, the acceptance of uncertainty, the tolerance of uncertainty. And this can't be on the theoretical level alone, right? They have to do some introspection and really see exactly why there's uncertainty in the market, how it manifests itself, why it's there, and what it says about themselves, what it says about their strategy, and what it says about the kind of results they should be expecting from trading, pure and simple. So doing that work to embrace uncertainty is very, very important, because the intolerance of uncertainty is what drives 99% of the trading errors that traders make. It's so important to understand this. The intolerance of uncertainty drives 99% of the trading errors that traders make in the market. FOMO, revenge trading, hesitation, whatever it is, right? Sizing up too fast or not enough. Those stem from your intolerance of uncertainty. And it's very important that you work on developing your tolerance of uncertainty, and you'll have a much easier time as a trader. So that's the first step. And that's the first pillar, in terms of this structure, right? And the second pillar is, and it's directly linked to the first pillar, which is the embrace of uncertainty, is emotional management. You have to be able to get to a point where you're not you're hopping off the emotional roller coaster, right? Once again, if winning trades give you a buzz and losing trades make you depressed, it's not going to be sustainable. Okay, trading is not going to be sustainable. Once again, I'm not saying you have to be some kind of brain dead zombie or robot or monk or saint to be a trader. No, but a modicum of stability in your mind is very important as you go through the process. In trading, what's really important at the end of the day is what you do, not how you feel. Okay, what you do is more important than how you feel. And so you have to be able to stick with your rules, with your process, with your strategy, with your edge, however you want to call this, amidst the ups and downs of things. Very, very important. And there are ways to develop that stability of mind. Once again, reflection, meditation, those are my preferred methods. Journaling as well, very, very important. But there are certainly other ways to do that. Other authors and trading psychology experts out there, they talk about NLP and hypnosis and all of that. I'm not here to talk down, on these methods. They're all very valuable. But the methods, the strategies that I personally use, that I've certainly seen works, right, and that are science backed, meditation, journaling, stuff like that. Um, so that's the second pillar, and the third pillar, are arguably the most important one, I would say, is the accountability. Accountability is very, very important, because accountability breeds responsibility, right? Look, most traders, they're not getting the results that they want. It's not a question of knowledge. Very often, most of them have plenty of knowledge, right? It's a question of aligning their behavior with that which they already know they should do. That is the issue here. That is what they're not able to do, right? So there's a consistency gap that they need to fill, right? And you typically do this via, having a coach, having an accountability manager behind your back, watching over your shoulders, making sure that you're doing what you know you should be doing, and getting that immediate feedback as you're making the decision, not after the fact. And if you take a look at how people practice in other fields, whether it's boxing, whether it's, I don't know, they're usually getting that feedback as they're practicing, right? You're not getting the feedback after the fact, a week from now, months from now. No, it has to be done as close as possible to the decision, right? This is how you interrupt your old patterns. And I know this is something that a lot of traders don't want to hear, because when they hear about the idea of working with a coach, with a trading psychology mentor or whatever, this sort of crisps, they start thinking that, oh, okay, this person is after my money, or they're scammers, or anything like that. But yes, there are a lot of scammers in this space, but there are a lot of good people as well, who are genuinely there to help you and who want to see you succeed, right? And in other fields, in business, to take a look at actors or singers or artists in general, business people, it's a common theme to work with a coach, with a mentor. But in trading, for some reason, it's frowned upon, right? People,
Yeah.
they come into this space, they imagine that, okay, I'm going to be able to achieve my goals, fast like that on my own. And
Yeah.
yes, for a lot of people, it's true. Look, I achieved my goals, my own personal goals, by myself, right? And I didn't hire a coach. I didn't work with a mentor. I reached my goals through my own means. But look, it took me about 5-6 years of just treading water and just reaping those spirit breaking losses. And it wasn't fun at all. So when you work with someone, with an accountability manager, a coach who's behind your back, watching over your shoulders, giving you that ongoing feedback, your results are much more predictable. You get to develop that mastery, more quickly, right?
Yeah.
By surrounding yourself with the right kind of people like that. So those are the three pillars of the program: the training in uncertainty, training in emotional management, and an ongoing accountability. This is how you reach your goals in the market in a record time, I would say, compared to if you were to do this alone by yourself.
Thanks for summarizing the concept. And as I said, I highly recommend to read through the whole book. There's so much wisdom and really practical tips you can, of course, you need to do on your own. So there is no short way. There is no, as you said, watching YouTube videos is not enough. Second or last question is, how can people learn from you? Is there any way besides the books or the website? Do you have courses? Do you have one-on-one mentoring? Or how can people reach out to you or learn from you? Is there any way to do this?
So I'm available on social media and on YouTube. I post there regularly. And so they can follow me on those different platforms. Just type Trading Composer and they'll find my channels and account there. And then I also have this coaching program, once again, David. It has very high success rate. Most of our students, they leave the program consistent. I would say 98, upwards of 98% leave the program consistent. And we work with them for 3 months. Why 3 months? Well, it's because it takes on average 2 to 3 months to build a habit. And what we're concerned with during our time together is the habit of behavioral consistency, pure and simple. And we work with our students very closely every single day during the trading session to help them develop that behavioral consistency, that greater composure as they're going through the process of trading. So that's another way to, that's one aspect of the kind of work that I do with traders. But other than that, there's also my new newsletter on my website. They can head on my website and and enroll there. It's free. And I share my thoughts on the topic on a weekly basis. So those are the different ways for your audience to to connect with me if they wish to do so.
Into the show notes so everybody knows. And now the last question is a philosophical one. We talked about, success in the markets, also about life. And I would like to ask you one personal question. So if we zoom out from trading, what does it take to find fulfillment in life? And why do people struggle with this?
Look, I'm taking some time to answer here because I'm still looking for the answer. There are a lot of books out there that pretend to have the answer. I don't. I'm still a human being and I'm going through the motions. But what I've seen, I've seen some things that can get you as close as possible to that sense of fulfillment. And I would say, first of all, find something that you really like doing in life and go tunnel vision on that. Work on developing that mastery, that expertise in that one particular field. And this will give you meaning and purpose when you lose it. And very often, I ask myself these questions. What is the meaning of my life? What is the meaning of what I'm doing? Is this just trading? Is just pressing a bunch of buttons on the screen? And is that what it's all about? Life has to mean something more, right? And personally, I get a lot of fulfillment from working with people and helping them overcome their challenges that I myself have struggled with. So that gives meaning to my life a lot, I would say. But there's also other aspects to a life that's well-rounded, that's fulfilling. There's family, right? Surrounding yourself with people who are empowering, and it's not always the case with family, right? They're not always empowering and all of that. So that's fine, but all in all, surround yourself with people who want the best for you, right? And that's that. And then live an introspective life, live an examined life. Very, very important. If you want to find fulfillment, you have to be willing to explore, what's not so good within you, and just learn to befriend your demons. And this is something that I'm still doing, by the way. It's not easy, it's difficult. But I'm still in the process of doing that, and I guess I'll let you know how it all turns out at some point. I think that there's no destination on this journey. It's a journey that you keep walking. And I've been meditating for a very long time now, David, and I've been promised enlightenment at some point. I'm still looking for it. I haven't attained it, right? I'm still a faulty human being. Some people find fulfillment in religion, in God as well. Look, personally, I don't know what I don't even know if there's a God to begin with. I'm open-minded, right? I'm not an atheist. I'm more agnostic, right? I'm open to the idea, to the concept, but I try to live my life as if there's a God, or there's gods, however you want to frame this. And hopefully they see that I'm trying my best in this life. It's not always easy, but I'm trying my best. So yeah, I don't know if this answers your question, David, but that's my whole stance on that.
Thank you a lot. It does.
But I'm curious to hear yours now.
Yeah, I have been thinking about this many times. I think it has to do with since we have kids, there's like I have seen it's like a shift in, the thinking, or let's say the perspective. Or maybe it has to do with age. I'm 46 now, so I was thinking quite differently 20 years ago, 10 years ago. And now in 4 years, I will turn 50. So it's, you change. But I think it's the kids looking into the eyes of small son or daughter. It creates something I can't really explain. Normally I'm a totally rational guy. I'm a numbers guy, but at the same time, I'm totally an emotional guy. And that's what I love, the contradictions in life. This is what life is about. And as you said, I'm open to everything. So to me, it's really, I would say it's the same. So first place, I would say it's the family or the people. So, the circles around family, friends, and so on. This is the main thing. If we can, have a good time with them, this is really fulfilling to me. This is where I'm totally in the moment. So I don't have to practice this. It's just, I'm there. I'm present. So 100%. The second thing is, I think you need to have a purpose in your job, because for the normal people, it's your 9 to 5. Your 9 to 5 is the period of time where you spend most of your daytime. So I'm really surprised that so many people don't really choose their job. They just, okay, yeah, I've seen this. Okay, let's try this. And they are not happy about this. Or at least here in Germany, I see so many people waking up, going to work like, okay, I have to because I need to pay rent. And this is to me, this is so sad, it's so I would really say family, having a good time, having challenges. I think this is very important. I don't want to have a life that is easy and everything is working. And I think struggle and challenge is great if you overcome it. If you fall down and you get up again, this is a good feeling. What I really love is learning. I try to learn, everything. I love books. I'm reading every day for a few hours. I try to read everything. It makes me so happy. I don't know why. My wife always asks me, okay, why don't you stop? What do you need this for? I said, I don't know. Maybe the answer will come in 20 years. I don't know, but I love it. So it's, waking up with a smile, going to bed with a smile, then everything is good. So, and making interviews like this, to me, it's like a great part of the job. To me, it's not a job. It's like, I really enjoy this. When I was writing down the questions, it was like, it's really fun. I want to ask even this and that. And now I got the questions, the answers. We've made a video together. We can publish this. People will see it, comment on this, and learn from it. Great. We have put something out to the universe. Perfect. I'm happy.
Much for having me on once again, David. It was a real pleasure chatting with you, and I hope my stutter wasn't too bothering in terms of
not at all
understanding what I was telling you. It's always been a challenge in my life, but if we had this conversation a few years ago, you would see that I wouldn't be able to form a coherent sentence without repeatedly stumbling on my words. That's how bad it was. But I'm able to have this conversation with you now because I made a lot of progress in that area, and I'm very, very happy about this. That aside, in terms of parting words for your audience, I would say, look, it's normal that trading is difficult. There's nothing wrong with you per se, okay? It's normal that this is challenging. As you were saying earlier, David, as human beings, we have inner contradictions. We have good things about us, bad things about us. We have long-term goals and desires, short-term urges, and those are constantly competing for our attention within ourselves, for that external output, right? So it's normal that this is difficult. So I would say take it slowly, once again. Work on building that solid foundation for your trading. Because if you're going in with big position sizes right from the get-go because you're trying to hit it big right away, you're just going to do yourself a disservice. You're going to build those bad patterns of behavior. You're going to build those traumatic memories with the market. And those, when you have those, it's more difficult, you know, because now you're having this baggage from the past, those big losses that you took and the emotionality, how you felt miserable. And it's going to be coloring the way you're approaching the market and seeing your next series of trades. It's just completely counterproductive. So if I were to go back to square one myself and talk to my younger self, this is what I would tell him. Take it easy. Just view it as just a process, right? It's mastery is a process. Take it one step at a time with small position sizes, and then slowly but surely increase your size as you get better, as you get more consistent, as you get more skillful. But this is the only way to make things much more much easier for you as a, you know, and just you know, develop those competences much faster. So that's what I would tell your audience as well. Take it one step at a time and try to enjoy yourself. This is difficult. It's reputably difficult, but it's good that it's difficult because this is what makes it fulfilling, right?
Yeah.
Challenges are good. Challenges they make us better. So learn to enjoy the journey and greet the challenges with a smile on your face. And at the end of the day, you know, you're going to be very, very happy with the end results.
I really appreciate it. And yeah, it was really a big pleasure for me. Thanks.
Same here, David. All right, take care.